JT Taylor, and this is Dry Snitch. Hey guys, I'm JT, and I'm your host of Dry Snitch. This is episode 3. Thanks for joining me tonight. So I'm sorry it's a little bit late, but I had already taped a video for Sunday night's release or upload, and it just wasn't the right material for Dry Snitch. So maybe I'll save it for something else, or maybe it'll just never see the light of day. So anyway, thanks for tuning in tonight, and I'm sorry this is late. So tonight I'm going to tell you a little bit about a story. It kind of goes where I left off last week, but just kind of talking about high school a little bit. Now this happened well after high school, but there was a kid who went to high school with me, and the story involves him. So he was a guy, I think he was a year lower than myself, and so when I was a sophomore, he was a freshman. And, you know, back then, like, you know, once you weren't a freshman anymore, you didn't want to hang around freshmen, you know. So, but I had heard that he had started kind of hanging out on the west side, which I had. I'd been over there for, 3 or 4 years now. And I had a lot of friends, and there was a lot of places that I was okay to go. And, it was just how life was. But I had heard this kid had tried to join an organization, and that they had made him feel like he was part of that organization, but really they didn't honor him as that. And so at our high school, I know he was getting the name of, it was a different name, but basically somebody who is phony and they're a wannabe black guy, And the reason why I had this distaste for this kid is because I think that people lumped us in the same category. I think they, you would hear this kid talk with his friends from the west side, and then you'd hear him talk with his friends from Oak Park, and it was a completely different voice that came out of him. Now, everybody has a little bit of a difference in their, how they talk. Like, you're not going to talk to your best friend on the phone like you would at a board meeting at a Fortune 500 conference. So, there's a difference, and I know I talked different lingo with my friends on the west side than I did to them in Oak Park. They just didn't talk the same way. Like, in Oak Park, I don't think back then anybody would have known what I meant if I said, hey, give me a sawbuck. Sawbuck is $10. Or a sawbuck bag, which would be a $10 bag of either heroin, cocaine, marijuana, whatever. And, they just wouldn't understand that. But I didn't talk with a different inflection or anything like that. I think the way that I talk probably changed from being around them after years, but it wasn't something that was put on. His was completely put on. At least it was at first. And I felt it was, because I've heard him talk 2 completely different ways. So anyway, I felt like I was being judged as like a wannabe with him, or I felt that I might get put in that category, and that's something that I wanted to avoid at all costs. To me, there's nothing worse than somebody trying to be something they're not. And I guess in a way that's what I was trying to be, though. I'm hanging around with these kids for at the time they were kids, for acceptance and trying to fit in somewhere where I wouldn't naturally fit in. I wasn't, of course, aware that I was doing that at the time. It wasn't like a something that was, in the forefront of my head, and I was trying to do these things, but it was definitely, that was one of the reasons anyway. So this guy was around, and I had another friend who was from the west side who I met when I first started going over there. I was probably 13, 14 years old, and me and him had become friends. He had a really great sense of humor, and he was just funny. He always had a great word for you. One of his characteristics that was really endearing is he'd always tell you how great you were. Whenever you got around him, he'd tell you how great you were and how much of a friend you were to him. And I think some of that was, of course, to get stuff out of you, because everybody's got kind of a hustle. When you're a dope addict, a dope fiend, a drug addict, whatever you want to call it, you've got to have some kind of hustle to be out there and get your money and be able to afford it, because it's not cheap. You know, there was times when I had a habit that was like 18 bags a day was my habit. That means if I didn't have at least 18 bags in a day, I would be getting sick. I would feel sick if I didn't have just that many. It's how many I needed to feel right. Not all at one time, obviously, spread out through the entire day. Now, that was at the worst of my addiction. But there's people who got a bag or 2 bags or 3 bags a day habit. You know, even if they got a habit that's 4 or 5 bags a day, they got to have that $50 every single day. 7 days a week, that's $350. Okay, times 4, that's $1,400 in a month. That's more than your rent or your mortgage, some people, you know. It's definitely several car payments. And remember, this is on top of all those regular bills, okay? So that was a what you had to have. You had to have a hustle. My hustle was retail theft. I was a shoplifter. That's what I started to get into in the last episode. So that's what I did. Every day I went out and I went to stores and I was shoplifting. I didn't want to, you know, it's funny because even though I know I'm doing stuff that's morally wrong, I know that I'm not only doing wrong by the law, but I'm doing wrong by God, you know? And I know these are things that he didn't want me to do. I tried to have some kind of morals in there, like I never wanted to steal from individual people. I didn't set people up and rob them or anything like that. There has been times when I've stolen, and usually those when I was really young, and it was from like my parents, unfortunately. You know, I might steal $20 here or there, or, you know, there's been times that I've done some bad stuff that I really, really regret. But that's not something that I carried into my adulthood life. And I still have guilt, you know, behind it now. But what I did, I'd go into a store and I would dress, you know, as well as I could. Like I said, I told you guys before, I'd have khakis and a polo or a button down, and I'd make sure, you know, I had a decent watch, and I didn't have any earrings in because I wore earrings all the time. I'd take those out because those made you look a little bit more, you know, where you stuck out. I didn't want to stick out in any way. So I'm a little bit short, but I was average weight back then. I know I'm not anymore, but I was average weight back then, you know, probably 160 pounds, and I'm 5'6". 5'7" for ladies if it's on a good day. Well, not anymore. I'm 5'6" because I have a beautiful wife. So anyway, I just didn't want to stick out. So my hustle anyway, like I said, was high-end retail theft. So I was going to stores like Nordstrom's and the Apple store, the Apple computer store, places like that. You know, that way I could take something that might be worth $1,000 or a few $1,000s and take it back, get the money, or sell it, you know, to one of my fences or whatever, and get the money. Now I don't have to do it for a few days, you know, because I didn't enjoy doing it. So that was my hustle. Well, this guy, my friend from the West Side, not the kid I went to school with, his hustle was to hustle hustlers. How he did that literally was he'd always be aware of like where the best dope was that day. You know, he'd know the people over there. You know, he'd know how to get there. He'd know who to ask for if there was any kind of password, or you had to tell him what kind of bags they were. He knew all that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, he'd tell you how much he loved you and how good of a friend you were to him and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, there was times when before there was white people coming over there. Even, you know, there wasn't white people coming from the suburbs to buy dope out there when I first started doing it. So when I'd come around, they'd be like, "What? Get out of here! You're the police," you know. So there was times when I actually had to have one of my friends go and get it for me, you know. And you don't just ask him to commit a felony and then not. How come every time we're taping, my dog's got to shake his chain? Cool down over there, buddy. But you know, you had to ask him to do it, and you're not going to ask him to do it and not, you know, give him something for it. So normally you'd only have to probably give somebody, you know, $5 or $10 to do that for you. But this is my friend, and if I'm buying 10 of them, or I buy a whole jab, because you can save if you buy, you know, 13 bags in a jab, you get it for maybe $100, and then I'd give him those extra 3. So, you know, I really didn't spend any more money. I'd get 10 for $100, and he'd get those extra 3. So, but he was just like that, and you know, everybody knew, not just white people, but other black people. Everybody who hustled knew that Pokey's hustle was to hustle hustlers, you know. And it just kind of felt, it's just the way it was. There wasn't many like him, but he was, I said his name. That's okay, that's a nickname, but that was his thing. So, may he rest in peace. I did love him. He was a good dude. Good heart underneath it all. And you know what? Most addicts that I know are some of the best people I've ever met in my life, are drug addicts. You know, I talked to my cousin who, for a brief time, used the same thing that I did for about a year or so. And she said that, you know, she's been off of that now for probably 20, 25 years or more. And I don't believe ever gone back to it. And she says to this day that some of the best people she knows are recovering drug addicts. Or, you know, drug addicts are usually kind-hearted people who usually are very forgiving and not judgmental because of what they've been through. You know, who am I to judge anybody, you know? So this other guy was also friends with him, okay? And so what he would do is, this guy, our mutual friend, would tell that guy that I didn't like him, and I would say this and that about him so that I didn't, you know, go around him, and vice versa. He'd tell me that this guy said this and that about me so that I would not like him and want to be friends with him, because he wanted to keep us, if you're hustling hustlers, you got to hustle one at a time. If 2 of you are there, he's only getting the benefit of one hustle, you know? So, I stayed away from him even until adulthood, because I'm thinking he's saying these things about me. One day we happened to cross paths, and I'm getting something out of my car, and I saw he was out of his car, and he was over talking to our mutual friend, and there was a car behind me with a girl and, a woman and 2 little girls, her daughters with her. And I'm getting something out of my trunk, and I hear one of the daughters say, "Hey, my mom thinks you're cute." And I turn around like, what? You know, I know they're playing with their mom or whatever, you know, trying to embarrass or whatever. And then I just kind of ignore them. I turn around and smiled. And then the other one said something like, "She's not kidding. She actually does think you're cute." Now, I start to walk up to the front. I thought that this was this guy's girlfriend, and it was. Well, when I went over the car, she introduced herself to me, and I introduced myself to her. And she's like, "Wow, you know, I kind of heard about you before through the mutual friend, and why is it you don't like him?" She thought the stuff that I had said, the stuff she heard I said, that I had actually said, and I hadn't. But since she thought I'd said that, she tells me, you know, I'm with him, but I don't really like him. I don't trust him and stuff. And I'm like, okay, you've never met me before and you're telling me this, but obviously she thinks that I can't stand this guy. So we talked for a little bit longer, and then she asked me for my phone number. It wasn't about like hooking up or anything. for something else. It was like she needed a favor, or I did, or something. We were going to help each other do something, whatever it was. I'm not sure. So a couple days later, I actually get I walked up to my friend and him, and me and him actually shook up. We shook hands, and my buddy got called to, another guy was driving by in a car, and my buddy got called over there, the mutual friend, and me and him started talking, and so I confronted him right away. I'm not one of those he say, she say type persons. I'm going to go straight to the source. I said, man, why you been saying these things about me? Like, I don't even know you, And he goes, what? Why you been saying these things about me? And I'm like, dude, I've never one time said anything bad about you. Instantly, we both know, okay, the mutual friend has been, spreading false rumors. Still got my county and prison cup. Like I said, this is what they give you in the cup. These are 20 ounces, and they come with a lid. These are great because you can store stuff in them once you get more than one or whatever. And you can cook your ramen noodles because that's the number one food item in the penitentiary. So you cook your ramen noodles and stuff in here. So they're better than just a cup. Anyway, so we actually say, you know what, forget it. Let's just be cool with each other. Now, this was 20 years after high school, okay? So I'm not trying to think about him being a phony anymore. By now, he had gone to the county and to the penitentiary. And if you go there and you false flag, now false flagging is a street term for claiming that you're a part of an organization that you're not actually a part of. It's basically like if you guys all seen the movie Colors or a gang movie or something, and the Bloods wear the red bandanas and the Crips wear the blue. It's basically like if you weren't a Blood or a Crip and you walked down the street and had a red bandana and then had another one tied around your head, and then you had a bandana, around your wrist and all that kind of stuff, when you weren't really a Blood or a Crip, And so you get in a lot of trouble for that. In the penitentiary, that's sure to get you whooped or killed if you continue doing it, So he had been authenticated by now or wasn't claiming it. I'm not sure. I think he just didn't claim it anymore, if I got that right. He wasn't part of the same organization as I was part of anyway. So anyway, he starts telling me, hey, let's get together. And, by the way, he was a heroin addict, just like me. So we hung out for the next few days, like almost every day. We'd hook up and, do something or whatever. And it was nice because, rather than hanging around with the mutual friend, I didn't have to, there came a point, by the way, I didn't have to get anybody to go buy anything for me anymore. At a certain point in my life, I was pretty well known. When you're white and you come up over there since you're 13, by the time I was, 20, I was like a celebrity over there. Not like I was revered like that, but just everybody knew who I was, basically, So I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to get anybody anymore. And there was a lot of white people coming over there, by the way, now. Lately, in the last 3 or 4 years before I quit, I remember that because now I had put on weight and I'm looking healthy, and I was driving a clean car and I've got clean clothes on and stuff all the time. And because I had put on a lot of weight really, really quick, a lot of them didn't know who I was anymore. And they'd be like, man, who are you? I'm not serving you. You look like the police. Because I don't look like a dope fiend anymore at that point, So, anyway, me and him could go anywhere. And I remember his girl calls me a few days after me and him started hanging out. And she said, man, JT, I got to tell you something because I think you're a good guy, By this time, it was clear to me, too, that she had liked me more than just a friend and was trying to, get with me that way as well. I'm never going down that road. So Well, I hadn't at that point anyway. And never did with her. But anyway, she was telling me, he's working with the police. I said, what? Yeah, they're paying him to trying to set you guys up, and he's going to try to set you up. I said, get out of here. She goes, watch. He's going to call you. He just got about $1,400 and some odd dollars. He's going to call you and ask you if you can either get a large amount of dope or you can get a gun. Because those two things will get him, you would get a felony arrest, and they'll get credited to him, and he gets so much per felony arrest or whatever. I said, you're kidding me. You got to be kidding me. How has he not got our mutual friend in all these times? She's like, I don't know. So what happens? The next day, he calls me. He goes, hey, can you pick me up a couple or whatever before I get out there? Because some spots actually have hours, like 7 to 7. It's weird, Some are 24 hours. He wanted some from the 7 to 7 spot, and he wasn't going to get off work until 7. So he would be late, asked me to get him a couple, and so I did. But I was very careful about how he got them from me. Anyway, when we got together, when we met up that night, I told him, oh, go get those few. They're under that rock over there. Because he didn't get them from me, And he did, and he was using, that's a crazy thing. The police know he's actively dope fiend, but he's out here, testifying against people and setting them up. That's crazy. And wrong, in my opinion. But anyway, they had him do that. And so he tells me, he said, hey, by the way, man, you think you can get, a bunch of dope? I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, just get some grams. He goes, because I know you got plugs and, they all respect you over here. And he goes, we could put dope out and sell it ourselves on the next block. I'm like, how much are you talking about getting? He goes, well, how much could you get me for like 1,400? How many grams? I'm like, 1,400, huh? He's like, yeah, man, blah, 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 blah. And I go, well, let me see, So I'm wanting to see if he's actually trying to set me up. Now it's looking, 1,400 is really a suspicious number if somebody just told you, It's kind of arbitrary to be out there 1,400 and then he nails the same exact amount. Something right. So I'm telling him that I'm calling a guy, and the guy's saying, yeah, we can get it, but it's going to be a few days or whatever. So I tell him that, and he's like, okay, I guess we wait a few days. I wanted to see, was he really a cop? So I go, you know what, that guy's probably full of crap. He's not going to call me back, I don't think, and I bet you he doesn't even get it. He goes, really? He goes, well, I might be able to get some, but if we put it out, we're going to need some protection. He goes, and I know you already got a pistol, because I always kept a gun back then. Usually not on me, but it'd be on the car somewhere, or I had a Velcro case thing that's strapped underneath the seats so they wouldn't find it if they searched under there. Anyway, he goes, but I need a gun. He goes, can you just give me a pistol real quick, and then we'll see if I can get it. And I'm like, sure, I'll try, and I could already tell when I said I was calling to try to get a gun. I didn't call anybody to try to get a gun. I called a guy and told him, I got out of his sight, by the way, and called a guy and told him, man, this dude actually thinks I'm calling somebody to try to buy a pistol. So if I start talking like that, you know what I'm talking about. He goes, okay. And I could tell that he was going to make phone calls. All of a sudden, he had to leave my presence to go make a phone call. As soon as that happened, no, he's calling the police. So he's a snitch. So the next day, I go and tell our mutual friend, man, dude is a snitch. Here's what happened is, his girlfriend told me, blah, 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 blah. 1, 2, 3, these things all happen. It's not BS. She said 1,400. He said 1,400. She said weight or pistol. He tried for weight, then he tried for pistol. Like, he's trying, dude. So he's like, okay, well, I'll keep that in mind. I'm like, no, don't keep it in mind. Stay away from him. Next day I come over there. He's gone with him. So my mutual friend is gone with this guy. I'm like, his sister told me, oh, he took a ride with, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's not good. So I'm not sure what happened, because it's about 15 years ago. Time had gone by. A few days later, I run into another one of my buddies. He's like, man, dude, I just got out of the county. I'm sick. Help me out. And so I bought him some or gave him some money. And he tells me, man, I said, what'd you go to jail for? He goes, man, that other white dude that he hangs around? I go, yeah. He goes, man, that dude's a snitch. He set me up to try to buy something. They came together, asked me if I can get some weight. And so I got them like a few jabs. He goes, and then my lawyer showed me in the county, showed me that they had a videotape, and where that camera was coming from was dude's medallion. He had a big silver chain and had this medallion on it, and it had a camera in it. He goes, you could see he was sitting in the back back driver's side seat. And he goes, that's where the camera angle was coming from. You could hear his voice, but you couldn't see his face because it was on, camera was on him pointing outward. He goes, he set me up. He goes, I told what's his name? Man, they got this guy, that guy. Like 7 people got indicted, I believe. The main guy got like 20 years or 28 years. I think the main guy got like 28 years, and somebody else got 9, and somebody got 11, I think. And then my buddy ended up getting, I think, 2 out of that. Back in the day, you only had to do 6 months out of 2 years. But he got a 2-piece out of that. And then the guy who's mutual friends actually got set up too. After all those years of friendship, he set him up. But I'm thinking there's something happened there that he looked out for him somehow, and he only got county time. Okay? So he went to the county, and, but when he got out, he was so scared that people were going to think that he, was snitching with him or whatever, that he was pleading with me to tell people, man, if they asked, that I went to the joint too. I'm like, man, you're back around. You've only been gone for a month and a half. There is nobody who goes to the joint for a month and a half. You needed to get out of town for several months and then come back. Either way, you brought him, and they know that. You vouched for this guy. The police ended up getting this guy an apartment, overlooking the spot that the main guy worked at and all his workers were at. So he could, if he had a camera up there, which I'm guarantee you he did, he could just tape everything that was going down right there underneath him. And he was getting paid for it. I wondered where he was getting money, because he wouldn't talk about his hustle. He said he let me know in due time and all that he just ran through, got a bunch of money and this and that, whatever. So it turns out, man, that they pretty much put that on our mutual friend. And I was driving him one day, and we drove to a little bodega on a corner, and we saw one of our guys who was in our organization, who's, got some pull, some juice in it, a higher up. And I remember him lean his head out the window one time. And when he did, he cracked him in the head with a solid steel or lead pipe with some rubber around it. I don't know how he didn't kill him, because he cracked him with it. And he told me, don't drive, man, and I'm supposed to listen to him because, he's my superior in the organization, but that's my buddy. And I slammed on the gas and got out of there. Luckily, I went and talked to some people who were over him, and they told him, man, what was he supposed to do? That's his homie, and he's not going to just, let his homie get killed, But several more times, our mutual friend took a bad whooping, and his mom, I believe that's why his mom, sister, and nephew all lived right there, and he lived with them. They all moved to a completely different part of the West Side, where none of them were over there. And to this day, that was probably at least 10, 12, maybe even 15 years ago. To this day, 2 or 3 of them guys from that whole thing are still locked up. And they're still looking for that dude. Anytime they find him, they put out what's called a KOS, which is a kill on sight, or a smash on sight, which is an SOS. I haven't heard what they put out on him, but I can guarantee you one of those is out on him. And if he ever messes up, because those police don't care, even if he is a confidential informant, if he ever does anything to like break the law and it's bad and he hasn't done enough to get out of it, they'll throw him in the penitentiary, and this kid is going to get sauced if he comes in there, you know? It's going to be ugly. So, you know, I knew, you know, that from a long time ago, he wasn't standing on nothing real. You know, I knew he was a wannabe. And you know what? Sometimes your heart is on the inside and sometimes it shows. And this is how it showed, you know. He took the wrong route. I don't know if he originally started snitching to get himself out of trouble, but I know that when I got out of the joint on parole, that man, they snatched up a whole bunch of people who were on parole one time and brought us to the county, and were basically, if you had caught a case and were fighting anything, they were telling you, man, we'll get you out of that case and we're not even going to revoke your parole if you do this or that for us, you know. And I hadn't gotten no more trouble, and they're like, man, good thing you haven't gotten no more trouble, so we can't make you do it. But if you want to do it, you know, there's several $1,000s. It's good money for you. Basically, it's like a new job. It's a way to turn your life around. And I said, man, my way is never to turn my life around to inform you about some of the people who were going through the same struggles as I was. You know, I'm not, if you're a cop and that's your job, hey, that's your job. And I don't got no problem with the police, real police, you know. But I got a problem if that's your get out of jail free card, is to go snitch on your friends or, you know, acquaintances, because, you know, they don't take that lightly. And if you can't be touched, your family probably can. And so nobody's ever going to be safe again, you know, around you. So listen, I wanted to let you guys know why I tell you these kind of stories and what these videos about. As I told you from the beginning, this is going to progress. You know, it might be about jail or the penitentiary one day. Next day might be about street and its drug deals and this kind of story I told you today. And the next story might be about how I turned my life around through the help of Jesus Christ, and did a 180, you know, and I still have problems and struggles here and there, but I know that I've been redeemed and forgiven, and I'm on a new course. I'm blazing a new trail, you know. I got married 3.5 years ago to a beautiful woman, and that's been part of my, you know, conversion, is because, you know, I wanted to do it for her, but most of all, you got to want to do it for yourself. And like I said, this podcast was going to be to help others, and it will be to help me a little bit, and as well as my wife, because we're going to get some of this out. It's a little bit of like, you know, therapy. So my goal, though, isn't to tell you this story so it's a cool story and to entertain you. I'm happy that if you are entertained, but the thing is, I want you to get help. If you're struggling and you don't know where to go, you don't know where to turn to, maybe you don't have insurance or any money, or don't know what the next thing to do is, and you want some help, write down in those comments right below this video, write down, you know, what you need, who you are, whatever. I'll see who you are, but write down, you know, that you need some help and you want some help, and I promise I will, or somebody will, and it won't be the police, somebody will call you and will help you get some help, okay? Whether it's to heroin, crack, drinking, whatever your problem is, there's people out there that can help you. And you don't necessarily need insurance. You don't need to have, you know, money or anything like that. There's ways to get help. It might take a little while, you know, when you don't have those things, but there's ways to do it. And I'd be glad to help you. And please reach out. Please reach out to me. If you're somebody who's off the drugs now, but you say, hey, man, I just want to get or never were on drugs or whatever, and you live this lifestyle that brought you, you know, through the doors of the county jails and the prison system, and you've just done the road that turnstile back and forth through, because as people don't know that once you go and you got that felony on your back, when you get out, you're not just getting any old kind of job. Yeah, you can get a job. They'll say, okay, we'll go work at McDonald's and go work at... Listen, I had to go work at Domino's. At 40-something years old, I was working at Domino's. I stood out on the street holding a sign that said puppy sale in a Santa Claus suit so that I could buy my wife a Christmas gift. You got to do what you got to do. But it ain't easy, you know, and when you could get out there and in one day or within 3 or 4 hours and make $1,000 if you're out there working at a spot that's banging, or you go and do what I was doing, you know, and stealing, you know, but you got to play the tape all the way through, because that's not where it ends. You know, you might get away with it today, you might get away with it tomorrow, but someday, sometime soon, you're going to end up caught and you're going to go back through the same thing again. And then you're sitting in there, man, I just wish I had one more chance. This is your chance. If you're sitting here watching this and you're not locked up and you don't have a case riding on you, this is your chance right now. So get up and do something about it. Get to a meeting if you need the 12 steps. Find a sponsor. Work those steps. The program says it works if you work it. And I'm not even a 12-step guy. I think they work. I think that's probably the most successful program that's out there for people. But I took one step, and that was Jesus Christ. And I still go to meetings, by the way. Here and there, I still go to meetings when I need to. Sometimes I need to be reminded when I see somebody new come through the door and he looks wrecked and ruined, and, you know, and then a month later you see him and he's cleaned up and he's got a glow about his skin and his eyes are bright, and he's telling you about how this miracle happened to him and that miracle happened to him. I've had miracles happen to me, okay? I'll share one with you in the next video, but please get out there and get on it. Right now is that chance. You have to want it, though. If you know somebody who needs help and they say they're not ready or they don't want it, don't worry. Your prayers shouldn't be to get them help. Your prayers should be that they're ready to get some help, because until they're ready, they're never going to start. They're never going to be in it. You can send them to 1,000 rehabs. Until they say that they're ready to get help, they want out, they're tired of this life, they got to turn it around, they've got nothing left, because people's bottoms are different. You might see that as his bottom because he's broke and his wife left him and took the kids and they foreclosed on his home or whatever. His bottom might have to be that he got 15 years in the penitentiary. You don't know where people's bottoms are. And they can have a bottom, by the way, and dig through that bottom and find a new, deeper level to go to. But once they say they're ready and they're ready to start committing to a new style life, and they're ready to do whatever it takes, help them. Please help them. You know, whether they've said 1,000 times before, this could be that chance. This could be that time. You never know when it's too late. We've seen in the last few years, I don't know how many of my friends die from the addiction of heroin or drugs. We had, you know, a family member pass. We've had tight friends. You know, I've had 29 close friends die from this addiction or from life in the gang. That's not associates, people. I'm talking about 29 close friends. People who I would hug and tell that I loved. 29 of them. And 95% of them died before the age of 40. Because of this stupid drug. You know, mostly it's you know, the opiates. And now they're putting fentanyl on everything from heroin to crack. I don't even get that, but they're doing it. It's the truth. I'm not lying. It's not just a rumor. They're doing it. So please, if you know somebody who's willing to get help, let me tell you where to find it. Let me hook you up and tell you. I don't get anything out of it except the satisfaction of knowing that that person doesn't have to die. Knowing that that person gets another chance at life. Don't judge them, people. Nobody woke up and one day said, you know what? My life's ambition is to be a dope fiend. My life's ambition is to be a crackhead. Someday I want to have a 10-year prison term. Nobody wants that. Yeah, it might seem crazy. If you think it's not an addiction, or you think addiction is not a disease, I want to tell you this short story real quick. Just a few years ago when I was still going through my thing, I remember my wife texted me while I was on my way to the West Side. She said, choose today. Choose today. Is it me or that drug? She didn't stand a chance. That's sad, because for that woman who I love more than life itself, I would stand in front of a freight train and die for her. I would jump in front of any bullet and die for that woman. If a madman had, hands hooked to, choppers and knives and whatever have you, and he's coming at me, I would jump in front of her to save her. And I would do anything for that woman. But if it comes to her against heroin, there is no chance. She stood no chance. I don't know any other way to say that and make it sound like it's okay. That's how bad that's a disease, okay? Because that doesn't even make sense. You die for her, but you wouldn't even choose her over heroin? No, because I have a disease. I'm an addict. So once it's in my body, there's a physical allergy and there's an obsession of the mind that happens. Okay? And you know that if you go without it and you're going to get that sick, you know for a fact that you're not going to go through that if you physically can get it. You know what I'm saying? That there's no choice. And it's not that, I know that she heard that and it hurt her at first until she actually wrapped her mind around it. Okay, I was crying with relief because I finally believed it was a disease. I had told myself, man, that's a cop-out too many times. I chose to pick it up the first time, so it's a choice. You chose the first time. I chose when I was 14 years old. That was my mistake. I told you before, I fell in love with the first time. Drugs work on you a completely different way than anything else if you're an addict. So you could think that, oh, well, I've got drunk before, or there was a time in my life where I got wild with it and I was drinking almost every day, blah, 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 blah. You didn't ever wake up and if you didn't have it, you would crap your pants, puke all over yourself, and be so weak that you couldn't even turn over in bed to get out of the pile of puke that you just vomited up. Okay? You haven't gotten there. If you've never been dope sick, you have no idea what I'm talking about. You have no clue. Yeah, there's people who can go cold turkey, and God bless them if they can. Most of them go cold turkey in jail or in prison or whatever because they have to. And by the way, now they finally said that you can die from withdrawals from heroin. And it's not the withdrawals that kills you. Not the actual, without the drug that kills you. It's the body parts and organs that fail from not having it. So it's dangerous to go cold turkey, by the way. There's plenty of treatment centers out there that will detox you on Suboxone or methadone or whatever they use and slowly decrease you off of it. And I'm not here to battle about what to do and all that. I'm just telling you where you can reach out and get some help, and I pray to God that somebody hears this and needs this and will reach out to me and let me know that they need some help, or this will just inspire you to go get some help on your own. There's plenty of, you can Google it, and there's plenty of places that you can probably find on your own, and you might not need me. I don't care which way you get it, just get that help. Because tomorrow's not guaranteed. You know, tell your people who you love every day that you love them, and go get some help. That's all that it takes. You know, my help was in Jesus Christ, because when I met the Lord, he really had the power to take that out of my life, and not physically, although he's done that before, and I'll share that miracle with you, like I said. But he'll take that taste out of your mouth if you ask him to, and if you truly want him to do that. You know, your life has to completely change. All the people that you hung around with, the places that you went, and the things that you used to do have to change. Yes, that comes from the 12 steps. I do believe in that program. I'm just not in that program necessarily. I have been before, and I stayed clean for a few years. But I'm telling you, folks, that it's out there, and you could save somebody's life today. If they want it, reach out to me. I'll help you get it, or just reach out to somebody. Like I said, I don't get anything from it except the enjoyment of seeing somebody's life turn around and possibly living an extra day, an extra month, an extra year, an extra lifetime, and getting to see their kids grow up, because there's people out there who are dying and not even getting to see their kids grow. So thank you again for tuning in. And please, if you like the video, please tell anybody out there who might need something like this that it's here for them. I don't care if you fast forward and just listen to the end. You know, do what you got to do, but that's what this is here for. Please like and subscribe so that more people see it. The more you subscribe and like, it gets, you know, through that system, and it goes through this, I forget that word that they use all the time, but it goes through that, and more people get to see it. So thanks for tuning in tonight. God bless. Jesus loves you, and I'll see you next time on Dry Snitch. Time for me to go lock down.